scary, and I'm at least getting a second baking video in, so thanks for your support. And today we're going to do Valentine cookies, but they're really just holiday sugar cookies that you can frost however you want. But I'm going to show you a fun little trick for frosting that people love, and it's super easy, so here we go. So these sugar cookies, years ago I got this recipe from Teresa Tabor, and I don't even remember who she is, but I must have loved them enough to get the recipe from her, so thank you, Teresa Tabor, wherever you are. The ingredients, here we go. 3/4 cups melted butter, and I've just melted it in my little glass cooking bowl in the microwave. It's always nice to have one of these so that you can just melt your butter right in the microwave. Into that we're going to be putting 2½ cups of flour. Into the flour I've added, let's see, it's 1 teaspoon baking powder and 1 teaspoon salt. And I just put it right in with my flour, with my 2½ cups of flour, because I'm going to stir that together. It also needs 2 eggs and a teaspoon of vanilla. So we're going to have the teaspoon of vanilla, the eggs. Our frosting will be kind of like a buttercream frosting, so it's going to be, not a full stick of butter, probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter, powdered sugar, and then the secret ingredient is Kool-Aid, believe it or not, a packet of Kool-Aid. So you can get any flavor you want. Get the kind that doesn't have sugar added, and it's ascorbic acid and food coloring, and I'm sure that the ingredients, if you read them, are probably frightening, but it's Kool-Aid, and it gives your frosting this really tangy, fruity, for me, childhood memory flavor in the frosting. And people are always like, how did you make that frosting? They love the flavor, but they don't know the little secret unless you tell them. So that's the little secret. So here we go. We're going to mix together, as we did in the last video, the flour, the salt, and the baking powder. So as probably most of you know who've done baking, you mix your wet ingredients separately from your dry ingredients. So I'm getting the dry ingredients ready so that when the time comes I can just start to pour them right on in. And no mixer needed for this. I don't have the big kitchen mixer. I've always wanted one, but I don't have one. So I have just a hand blender. Anything I make either has to be done with the hand blender or by hand. So if you don't have a big mixer, don't worry about it. Into this butter, we're going to put the sugar, the eggs, and the vanilla, right? Our wet ingredients. I don't know why sugar is considered a wet ingredient, but in baking, sugar is considered a wet ingredient. So we pour in a cup of sugar, and then we're going to put in our 2 eggs. And as you may or may not know, it's good to crack your eggs into a separate container so that if you get any shells in the eggs, you're okay. You can take them out if you crack the eggs and get shell in it. So I'm going to crack the eggs into this after I pour in my vanilla and mix that in. And then I'll use that as my little container for my eggs. So there's the consistency. I've got my little camera, my video camera set up here. And now I'm going to put in the eggs. So we've got vanilla, sugar, and next, in with the butter, now we're going to put the eggs. So 2 eggs. And I'm not one who cracks it on the corner. I used to always do that. I'll pour that on in. But what I found is that for some reason just tapping it and then opening it, I have far less issues with eggshells than with my eggs. So there's my second egg. And I have to rinse my hands because I've just been touching those eggs. So put in that second egg and then just mix that together. And I kind of put my spoon through the egg yolk just so that I'm sure that it gets blended easily. So now the blend goes together. And then I'm going to slowly blend in my flour. So we'll just put a little bit in at a time. Makes quite a bit of dough, and we have to chill it. So be sure that when you make them, you have time to throw them in the fridge for a bit to chill. I often don't have the patience, but with any kind of rolled cookie, which this is, if you do a rolled and cut out cookie, you almost always have to put them in the fridge first to let that fat harden enough that it can be rolled. All right, I'll show you what that looks like so that you kind of have an idea when you're working on them, when you're ready. And you want everything thoroughly mixed, but you don't want to over mix. Again, if you start activating that gluten, things get a funky consistency, which you don't want. So I'll show you in my little camera, and then hopefully you can match yours to that look. I kind of get it into a little bit of a ball. And then I'm going to put my little top on it that's, I like to use the silicone tops because then I'm not wasting a bunch of plastic wrap, but you can do that. I'm going to just keep mine here, and I'm going to pop that on, and I'm going to pop it in the fridge, and then we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, dough is chilled for an hour, and I've actually had it out for a minute, so it's softened a little bit. But I'm going to do the usual where I put a little flour on my countertop, and then I just lightly get the dough floured so that it's less likely to stick. And then get your rolling pin, and we're just going to roll it out. Now, know that you can make your cookies whatever thickness you want. Just keep them consistent so they bake consistently. So if you like the big, big, thick cookies, then make them nice and big and thick. I don't love those, I call them the convenience store sugar cookies with all that frosting on it. They taste like, to me, a blend of, tastes like the cookie is all baking soda or baking powder, and the frosting tastes like it's all shortening, so I don't love those. But everybody's different, so if you want to make the big thick kind, just roll them out thick. I'm going to roll mine out to about, I would say I'm at about 3/8 of an inch or so. And then get your cookie cutter. So I've got my heart cookie cutter here, and just press and then just wiggle it a little bit. So I'll show you kind of that thickness. I'll hold it up here so you can see, and I'll hold it here. That's about how thick I've made these cookies. And I'm going to put them on my tray, and then we'll bake them in a little bit, and I'll come back to you. Well, I had some funky setting on my camera, so I'm going to talk you through the frosting because I'm already done and it didn't work. So it's 3 tablespoons of butter melted, and then a 1.5 cups or so-ish of powdered sugar. And know that with your powdered sugar, you can, you can fiddle with buttercream frosting any way you want. A tablespoon or 2 of milk, or half and half. And then a little bit of the packet of the Kool-Aid. So, maybe 1/3 of a packet, mix it up, taste it. And I usually melt the butter first, put in a little bit of powdered sugar first, so that it's a really nice consistency, just a little bit at first. I don't have my whisk anymore. I've got a little teeny coil whisk that's really nice for that. And then I add a little more powdered sugar, and then I get the spoon out because it's getting thicker, and then you can play with the milk till you get the consistency you want. And then I add in the Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid gives it flavor because it's ascorbic acid, so it's got kind of that tart fruitiness. And then it has a natural, well, not natural, it has food coloring in it already. So you don't have to go buy food coloring for your cookies if you don't have it, but you have to have a packet of Kool-Aid if you want to try that. If you don't want to do the Kool-Aid, you can use food coloring and just do buttercream frosting, where you add vanilla instead. And they are just incredibly scrumptious. I hope you can see them there. They're just so good. If you want to put them on display, I sometimes will put them in the fridge or the freezer to harden the buttercream. You can, pull them out and layer them on each other, just like I did, and that way it doesn't have, goo all over the place. So that's the nice thing about buttercream frosting is it will harden. So there's my little cookie. They're just yummy. They've got just the right bit of everything in them. So thanks again, Teresa Tabor. And it was a roommate who gave me the trick of the Kool-Aid years and years ago. So thanks to both of them. And I'm going to have a little nip now. They're just so tart. That frosting is so tart. So I recommend you try them. It's a great butter cookie on its own, or sugar cookie. It's more of a sugar cookie than a butter cookie. You can cut them into any shape, put on some frosting, and they're just the right amount of a little bit of snap and a little bit of softness. Okay, thanks for stopping by.